Welcome to Legal Studies, and today we're going to be learning about some key concepts in the civil justice system. Where are we in the study design? Well, we've just started our second area of study, the civil justice system. We're here on our second dot point learning about the key concepts in the Victorian civil justice system. And there's three you're going to learn about: the burden of proof, the standard of proof, which should be familiar to you already from our previous area of study. And then this one here is a bit new. It's called representative proceedings, otherwise known as class actions. So the first two things you need to know about in the key concepts are the burden and standard of proof. And as I said, you should be familiar with them already. The burden of proof is the idea of who has the obligation of proving their version of events is the case, or who has the obligation of providing the evidence. Now, we know in criminal law that the burden of proof is on the prosecution. Well, in civil law, the burden of proof is on the party that we call the plaintiff. They're the person who are saying something has happened, something wrong has happened, so they have to prove it. The standard of proof is how strong does the evidence need to be if we're going to prove that case. Now, again, we learned in criminal law that the standard of proof was beyond reasonable doubt, so quite a high bar. In civil law, the standard is a little bit lower. It's called on the balance of probabilities, which means that the plaintiff has to prove that it's more likely that their case is right. So it's a much lower bar compared to criminal law. Then the third idea that you need to know in these key concepts is a little bit of a different idea compared to the last two. It's known as representative proceedings. And another name for this is class actions. All right, and we're essentially talking about here a lawsuit or a legal proceeding in which multiple people are suing the one company or the one person. And so the way it works is that if you've got 7 or more people who've got the same legal issues arising from the same sorts of facts or the same incident, they can all pursue the same case together. Now, there are some advantages to this. It's more efficient, right? Rather than having 7 or 8 or 10 or 100 different people all separately bringing their case to court and having 100 different trials, we can just have one trial. And so it's a more efficient way of using the court's time. Another benefit of this is that people are able to then pursue their case even if they might not otherwise have been able to afford it individually. Because one of the reasons why class actions are so popular is that if you can't afford to pay for a lawyer yourself, there are companies called litigation funders which can pay for the lawyers on your behalf. And the way it works is that a litigation funder will fund your legal proceeding, they'll fund your class action in return for a percentage of the winnings. So it's a way that individuals can get involved in a group lawsuit in circumstances where they otherwise wouldn't have been able to run one themselves because of cost. And when it comes to cost, all of those people, whether it's 7 or 100 or 1,000 people involved in the class action lawsuit, all of those people get to be involved and reap the benefits of it. But the only person who has to deal with costs is the lead plaintiff. So one person has to step forward and be the person who's going to represent the whole group of people. And if they lose, there is the potential that they have to pay some of the costs associated with losing a legal case. So there is some risk involved for the lead plaintiff. So an example for us of a class action is ongoing at the moment in Victoria. There's a class action related to Uber. And what's happening is that people who owned taxis during 2014 to 2017 are suing Uber. So a whole bunch of taxi drivers, taxi owners are suing Uber because Uber basically, they are claiming Uber came into the market and operated as an illegal taxi service and then got the law changed through illegal means. All right, so that caused loss to taxi drivers. And as a result, a whole bunch of taxi drivers are suing Uber. So that's our example of a class action. And that's all we need to know today. So our 3 ideas were the burden of proof, the standard of proof, and this idea of representative proceedings, otherwise known as class actions. See you next time.